What's good, y'all? Welcome back to another video.
In this video, I'll be giving my review of the Sabaody Archipelago Arc in One Piece. But before we get into the video,
please be sure to subscribe to the channel, as well as hit that notification bell to get notified for more content that I put out. As well, if you've never been enjoying this video, be sure to hit us with a like and leave a comment and let us know your thoughts on the Sabaody Archipelago Arc in One Piece. Look, see why you laughing? It's hard to pronounce. It's hard to pronounce.
Twister.
This is like the third take at this point. So, without any further ado, let's just get into it, y'all.
If she ain't got a butt, fucking get into it, yo.
Here we are, Sabaody. What do you think? Was it something that you was expecting after Thriller Bark?
I wasn't shocked at... Okay. All right. The arc goes like this, ends like this. So...
A graph chart?
It was a roller coaster. So in the beginning of the arc, I will say, yes, I was expecting something as bizarre as this coming off of Thriller Bark, because to me that was also very bizarre. And this was also very bizarre in the beginning. So at the beginning I was just like, what is happening? And then it gets intense. And that's when all the world building happens. So I would say it didn't shock me in the beginning, but I think I was more shocked at the turn of events.
Of how quickly things escalated.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, do you have any highs and lows specifically for this arc before we start to get into more details?
Yeah, let's start with the lows, because honestly this arc left you on a low. A very low low. Yeah, let's just start there. I mean, we started, again, we kind of start in a different place than where we end. So we started at Duval's little hideout place. Yeah. That was fine. The actual island that we stay on for a majority of the time, the archipelago island, the culture of that island was the most extreme low, which I was not expecting. I admire Oda for bringing in a lot of real world problems to this series, but was not expecting it to be this intense, not going to lie. So that was a huge low, just the culture of this island. And another low was just the devastation of Luffy at the very end where we were left off. Another big low was seeing, because Zoro's my fave, but seeing Zoro's physical and mental weakness in this arc. He was going through it, and he was trying to push through because that's Zoro, but he was going through it. And you see it in the very beginning when he's working out so intensely. That just shows his mental state at that time. He was a bit, for lack of a better term, manic doing it. He was just like, I need to get stronger, I need to get stronger. So that just shows what he's going through mentally, and then you physically see him like completely crumble throughout it. So that was a big low for me. Yeah. But then let's go into the highs. As always, Oda does a brilliant job with the world building, but not only in this arc do we see world building, but we see, if this is a thing, history building. We learned so much about the past, so many important things about the past. I was so into it. We also meet some new characters, but new characters from the past and some characters of the future as well, which is really cool. We get a little bit closer to the mermaids, a little bit. Are you
looking for like a surplus of mermaids?
Yes.
Okay, you don't want one or two. You want a surplus.
I'm ready for the world of the mermaids. A whole new world. Oh wait, that's a wrong movie. Okay. That was the wrong movie. I just went to Aladdin. Yeah, so we're a little bit closer to the mermaids. Now we at least know how to get to the mermaid land.
Mermaid land, Fishman Island.
Yeah, it was about mermaids. Yeah, we already know Fishman, so. Yeah, I guess that's really it for the highs for me. Yeah. I mean, the emotional roller coaster, like, can be looked at as a high and a low. I think I said this in the past, too. Just depends on how you view emotions. Yeah. But it was a high because Oda made you feel things, but it was a low because of the feels that we felt.
So what do you think about the island itself, like the Sabaody Archipelago?
It was cool that it was an actual archipelago. That geography is like fully tied into it. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
You'd be surprised how many people don't know what an archipelago is before this anime. So, excuse me. Oof. Yeah.
I feel like even in the anime, you wouldn't really know what it is either.
It's a very interesting.
It's not like it gives you a. It's not like it gives you a lesson on it.
Yeah.
I was excited about it at first because the bubbles were cool. It looked so fun. Luffy was like bouncing on the bubbles when they entered, and then we knew there was an amusement park.
The mangroves, or like with the numbers on them. It was a cool concept.
It was cool, but then as Hatchi started talking about it, you're like, oh, this is weird. So there's going to be something weird that happens, and then it got real gross real quick, and I didn't like it anymore.
Yeah. So let's get into like the beginning parts of the arc. Let's get into Duval, cammie, and Hatchi coming back, as well as Sanji's bounty poster. This is just kind of a collection of things that just happens.
Yeah, this is where the bizarreness comes in that I wasn't shocked about because we just came from Thriller Bark. I was like, all right, let's keep throwing the weirdness at us. But this was so bizarre. I was not expecting this. So we meet cammie from the inside of a sea monster. She ends up being a mermaid, and it's kind of funny because they're like, this is the first mermaid we met, forgetting about...
Kokoro.
Yeah, Kokoro.
They said, nah, that don't count. Everybody did the same thing.
Yeah. So we met her, and then she's like, I need to save my friend. And Luffy was like, yes, let's save your friend, but only for the food. Not necessarily because he's your friend, but let's go get that food because...
He makes takoyaki.
Yeah, the friend makes like fried octopi or whatever. Yeah. And they mention the name on the boat. They say Hatchi, and then I think it's Nami, and then does Sanji also? Or Zoro, or someone just like, that sounds familiar. And even I was like, that sounds familiar, but I definitely don't remember who that is.
Yeah.
I'm awful with names.
I remember because when we were watching it, I was waiting to see if it would click to you. I thought maybe it would because we had just watched the episode of East Blue thing and we just went through Fishman Island, but it's a lot of characters, a lot of names.
It did not click until I saw him.
Which, think about if you're like a reader or watching the anime, you probably forgot about him too, realistically.
Yes. So we go to the place where Hatchi is being held hostage. We also get introduced to the flying fishmen.
Whatever they are, yeah.
During this time, and we get there. We'll just skip through some things, and we find out that the person who's running this island type thing has it out for one of the straw hats. We are not really told which straw hat until this person is nearly revealed. I was bouncing all over the place. I was like, who's he talking about? Is he talking about Zoro? Something from the past? I was starting to lean towards Sanji, and it ended up being Sanji, but I wasn't certain.
Yeah,
basically, this...
You thought it was Don Krieg. You thought it was mad different people.
I had no idea. It ended up being someone that was out for Sanji. And again, kind of just thinking that maybe it was something from the past. But it turns out it's because it was the guy that was on Sanji's wanted poster. And this is where I was like, what? I think I literally was just like, what
You couldn't believe what was happening.
I was like, is this real life right now?
It was like you wanted to be like, is this dead ass? And you're like, yeah, this is One Piece.
Yeah. So, yes, it was him, and then he really had it out for Sanji because he ruined his life, and so this was all just very interesting, but I kind of enjoyed it, especially as we got more into the arc, because then this character, Duval, who was Sanji's lookalike, kind of, ended up playing a huge part in this arc.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Sanji gave him a beating and gave him a whole new pretty face.
Not the first time he's done it.
Yeah, yes.
Because he did it to the noodle guy.
That's true. It's a skill, I guess. And, yeah, he ends up catching up with Sanji later. They see his new face, and basically it almost feels like, hey, I owe you a favor type thing. Yeah. Like, you did me a solid, you changed my face, so I owe you one. I got you.
Now everybody's friends.
So that kind of felt like its own separate arc until they tied it in.
Yeah.
I was very curious as to why we started it like this, but then I understood towards the end. But, yeah.
Alright, so moving on from the Duval stuff, we start to get onto Sabaody Archipelago, and Hatchi is being very, very specific about making sure the Straw Hats don't be Straw Hats. And you know what the Straw Hats do when they show up to places, they usually cause havoc. And Luffy
They cause havoc because they stand up for what's right. So basically, Hatchi was just like, hey, no matter what you do, even if you see someone being served basically very injusticely, if that's a word, or you see injustice in front of you, don't do anything. Turn your head because of the Celestial Dragons.
Yeah. So what do you think about the Celestial Dragons?
Oh my god.
Well, what did you think they were when they just said the name? Did you think it was going to be some real dragons?
I didn't think they were going to be dragons. I thought they were going to be really cool, like, noble people, but they ended up being gross and astronaut people.
Which is a kind of a more accurate depiction of what a noble person might look like. That's
true. Yeah, they were gross. They were very gross on all levels. Arrogant. They just felt like they had like these astronaut helmets on. They weren't really, they were like bubbles on. Because they didn't want to breathe the same air as peasants, the common people.
Peasant air.
They're gross.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hatchi, for warning us about them, but like, bless you. But we know.
Sorry, allergies. I died over here.
But we know the Straw Hats weren't going to put up with that.
Yeah.
The whole time I was waiting for one to get punched.
Yeah, because what's interesting is like they do give the lore a little bit about what the Celestial Dragons are in the series. Like, so I don't know if you caught onto it, like the fact that they're like descendants of the original kings that formed together, like the 20 kingdoms that formed together to create what we know as the world government now.
Yeah.
So these specific families get to live in Marijois. That's actually the name of it. Very, very bougie name, Marijois.
Yeah. And they get away with anything. Like, the government knows about everything that they do. They get away with everything because of this.
Yeah. So they're even higher than more like Marines or anything like that. Not in terms of power in regards to physical strength, but just like power is, you know, that's their lineage, I guess.
Yeah, and they're protected by the government too. So if anyone does defy them, they can call.
Who are you gonna call? Aokiji.
Yeah. Why am I drawing blank? What's Aokiji?
Aokiji's ice.
No. The title.
Admiral.
Admiral. They can call Admiral and warships basically.
Yeah. So speaking of some admirals and some war. We get some info about the warlords, the Marines, and Whitebeard.
So shit's about to get real, basically. So basically Ace is captured. So Whitebeard and the Marines are about to go to war. Things are about to get really intense. I am very curious as to how we're going to get there and how the Straw Hats, because I know the Straw Hats are going to somehow be involved, or at least I hope they are, but I have a feeling they will. It's involving Ace. They're about to enter the new world, so they're going to be involved. So I'm so curious, and a part of me is like really anxious to get there because it's about to get so intense. Especially after coming down from the devastation of this arc that we just went through. I don't know. Yeah. It's about to get real cringy for me, but not a cringy in like a ill gross, but a cringy like I'm anxious.
Not a funny.
Like I need to take a break for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting serious there, but you know, while all of that is going on, you have Luffy. The crew kind of splits up. Mm-hmm. You know, a couple of them go with Cammie and Hatchi, and the rest of them do their own thing. Zoro pulls a Zoro. He decides, you know what, I'm gonna leave the ship and just go for a walk. Yeah. Confidence that he's gonna find his way back because he's like, oh, all the trees are numbered.
Well, he said all the trees are numbered, and he looked at, there was a bubble that was blocking the number 4, so he's like, oh, I have to go back to number 1, which ended up being good.
But did it? Because he still couldn't even make it there.
But he still did. He made it to.
Nah, remember Luffy grabbed him.
But he was walking towards it.
And still got lost.
Yeah, I mean,
still got lost.
But it's just funny that that's where he was heading. Well, and also just Zoro in general during this arc, he didn't play like such a huge role in this arc. It was more of like we saw everything that he was going through physically, mentally.
Yeah.
But his timing of this arc was so funny. Like when he Yeah, so like you said, they were splitting up, and my favorite part of their split up was when Zoro just wandered upon one of the celestial dragons, first killing the fiance of a woman that he wanted to become his new wife, so he killed the fiance. And Zoro didn't see him kill him, but he just saw that this man was hurt. So Zoro, being Zoro, was like, let me help this man. And everyone was like, oh, because Zoro didn't stop and bow down to him because Zoro had no idea who this guy was. And yeah, so that was pretty funny. Just the timing of it.
Yeah. So with the Straw Hats traveling around, Hatchi is bringing Chopper, Brook, and Luffy to find the person to coat the shit so that the I'm about to say the Goa Mary, the Sunny, the Sunny can
go under the
water, the red line or whatever, so it can make its way to Fishman Island. Because the only other way to kind of go there to the other side is if you kind of just knock on the door at the Marines and be like, "Hey, let me through." But if you pirates, you can't really do that. So we end up at this very sus bar, and we meet Shakky. So what are your thoughts on her?
I love Shakky. She's a badass. My initial thoughts on her were, she was really cool. I didn't know how important she was, obviously, until we found out who her husband was.
Yeah.
Or boyfriend, husband.
Husband? I don't really know.
I think she says husband, doesn't she?
I think they I can't really tell if she was being serious or not.
Oh. But she just seemed really cool, really knowledgeable, and like she felt like she just has been there a while and could help them out a lot. Yeah. Which she did. She was saying, well, he's not here right now, but you can go find him. And that's what they went to go do.
I mean, also, like, some good information with Shakky that you probably probably forgot was the fact that she was saying, oh, yeah, I already know who you are. Like, she knew everything about Luffy.
That's true.
And she straight up said, like, yeah, your grandpops used to, like, chase me around.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, she did say that.
And that's another, like, kind of goes back to, there was a scene where Garp was talking to one of the smaller Marines. And he was like, you know what? Yeah, don't tell Sen Goku, who's the head of the Marines, that what's his name is here at Sabaody. It's just gonna cause problems.
Yeah, I remember that. I know Garp wanted to go to Sabaody to find him.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, Garp didn't want them to go. He was like, it's not worth it. You thought he was just looking out for Luffy, probably.
Oh.
At first.
Oh no, I thought Garp wanted to go there to get him himself.
No, I don't think he said that. I think he just tried to ignore it.
I misinterpreted that whole scene because I thought Garp was going to show up. Remember I was saying, like, bless you.
Thanks.
Sheesh. I thought Garp was going to... I misinterpreted all that because the whole time I thought Garp was going to show up.
That's because you thought Garp was going to show up.
Yeah.
I think that's why you interpreted it that way, because you was like,
I was hoping
oh yeah, whatever happens here, Garp is going to show up and save Luffy. I think that's what you thought was going to happen. But you didn't realize that he was just like, hey, because he did the same thing in post Eni's lobby, where he was just like, I'm going to just ignore that.
Yeah. Yeah, again, the history building of this arc was something else.
Yeah. So, Shakky then explains to Luffy that he is one of 11 people on the island, pirates on the island, with bounties over 100 million. And you get introduced to the 11 supernovas. You did just so happen to know one of them who are not part of our crew just because of life. You exist in the same household as me.
Yeah, he cosplayed as Law. So I finally got to understand who Law was because of this. But yeah, the supernovas. This was very exciting. So the supernovas are the pirates, again, with that bounty. But not only with the bounty, but the pirates that made it to the entrance of the New World.
Yeah.
So we know they're going to be powerful. There is one of the 11... of the 11 that has a bounty higher than Luffy's. So he'd be number 1, and Luffy's technically number 2 out of 11. So should we just walk through them all?
Yeah. I mean, what are your thoughts about the characters overall that we got introduced to? Like, did you think about the concept itself?
The concept itself is pretty cool because it's like, I mean, this whole series, or the whole manga, however you're reading or watching, you think that Luffy is the most powerful pirate. You're like, he's gonna get through anything. He has the luck. He has the the crew, he has everything, but then you meet these people, and you're like, oh.
Because, like, Luffy's the main character of this story that we're reading, but it doesn't really mean he's the main character of the world. Like, for real life, when you have to tell people and humble them, like, you're not the main character, bro.
But he is. No, but all of them are pretty unique. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
Some of them I like way more than others. So let's get into them all.
Yeah.
They're fun. So we'll start with, should we go in order of anything?
Go based off your list that you have.
Okay. Well, obviously we have Luffy and Zoro. Zoro is one of them as well, which is exciting. And Zoro is one of two of the non-captains of the Supernovas.
Yeah.
So there are 9 captains and then 2, I guess, co-captains. What do you? No, not co.
We're just like a right hand man.
Yeah. So it's Luffy and Zoro. First mate. We have Law, who is worth 200 million. His nickname is Surgeon of Death from the North Blue. I also noticed, because I'm obviously we're watching the anime, and I don't know what it's like in the manga, but when it introduces them throughout the manga, throughout the anime, it pops up their name, their nickname, the
bounty.
Yeah, the bounty, and then also where they're from. So I noticed a lot of them are from the North Blue. So what's going on in the North Blue?
Yeah.
It's interesting. Anyway, so Law is from North Blue.
That's also like knock out like what you think about the powers of each person too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to get into
that. Okay.
So we don't know any names of the devil fruit. But basically Law can discombobulate people's bodies if they enter his orb. Like, he puts up this orb thing.
It's a room.
Yeah.
He says room.
Room. I want to understand what he's doing and how he's doing it. And what is this fruit called? Because usually when you know the name of the fruit, it makes a little bit more sense. But it's pretty cool. It's dangerous. And it's funny. Yeah. It's quite comical. He had, when we were first introduced to it, we saw Marine's, like, legs on the necks, and everyone was discombobulated, so that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was funny. You had and this is something within the community can always cause sparks when it comes to swordsmen. You was like, so is Law considered a swordsman because he has a sword? I'm like, I don't think he is, but there's always debates about who's stronger based on swords play. Yeah. And I try not to be a part of it because it gets spicy. It gets spicy. So, that's Law. Let's get into the next one.
We have Captain Kidd. He is the one that has a bounty higher than Luffy. But Shakky did say that his bounty's higher because he's kind of like ruthless with like who he kills. Luffy has a heart and won't kill an innocent person. He's actually saving people. Where Captain Kidd seems to just kind of not care and gives no F's. He's just like
he's a pirate.
Yeah. So that's why she said he has a higher bounty. 315 mil. He's from the South Blue, and he has the power, I guess, like kind of like Magneto. He gets all the metal around him, so he can create strong weapons by getting all the metal on his arms. That's what I got from that, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And hard to be around, especially if you are a swordsman. His right hand.
Well, did you like Kid's character, his personality, and all that? Or?
No.
Oh no.
Not really.
Damn, he was like.
I like Law. Not just because you like Law, but Law seemed a little bit more humble and just kind of like chilling laid back. I didn't like Captain Kidd's arrogance. He was a little cocky for me.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all cocky. They all think they're gonna be king of the pirates, but he was just like a little like extra cocky for me. Yeah. Maybe that's gonna change. Who knows? But wasn't a big fan of him. His right hand, who is basically his Zoro, is Killer.
Yeah, seems Killer. Yeah. He was like, "Is that what we're calling him? That's his name?"
Yeah, his name's Killer. He's from the South Blue, and he has blades. That's all I really got.
That's all I really got.
That's all I really got.
Because they don't really show you his face, no nothing.
Yeah, blades.
He has blades.
Yeah. Going on to a different crew, we have Jewelry Bonnie. She eats a lot. She's worth 140 million. She's also from South Blue. Actually, North Blue, South Blue, kind of both have a lot. And she can change herself and other people into children. So when Zoro wandered into the Celestial Dragon situation, when the Celestial Dragon wanted to shoot him and then Zoro was going to slice him, she actually saved Zoro, jumped on him as a kid and pretended to be a kid. So her power helped Zoro.
Definitely off of self-gain, though, because she knows. They all know that, like, yo, somebody does something to Celestial Dragon, it's going to be a wrap for us.
Yeah, because the military will show up.
Yeah.
She is also funny. She eats a lot. She's kind of like Luffy. Very much like Luffy. Yeah. So it's like, do devil fruits make you really hungry or something?
Maybe Luffy's her soulmate.
Maybe. I'm trying to think, like, if there was any weird timing, like, when she came back from being a kid, was she eating a lot? But they didn't really show that, so I don't know. But she eats a lot also. Yeah. We can move on to Scratchman Apu.
Sorry.
Yes, that's him. Worth 198 million. From the Grand Line, which is pretty cool. He's the music guy. I was trying to figure out, like, the science behind his fruit. I can't wait to learn the names. But he, I think, does something with sound frequencies, and the frequency can basically explode a person when they get too much.
Too much of them waves.
Yeah. He was funny. His timing was funny, too, when we got to see what he did.
Yeah.
We have, what is it, basil?
Basil.
Basil?
Basil.
Basil? Is it like the herb? Anyway.
You know I can't pronounce it.
Hawkins. He's worth
Hawkins.
He's worth 249 million. He's the Scarecrow guy. But before he was a Scarecrow guy, we saw him being like the tarot guy, so he can basically read people's futures because he's really into tarot cards. That I think was kind of cool. He can kind of like tell when someone's gonna die. Yeah. He is from the North Blue, and yeah, what was interesting about him was when he was defeated, I think he was defeated basically by what's his name?
Kizaru.
Yeah, how do I forget his name? He's very important. He had little scarecrows jumping out of him.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We have Capone. Capone. Bege. Worth 138 million. He's a little mafia guy, like little. And he's from the West Blue, and his power.
This shit went over your head the first time.
I was so confused.
We had to rewatch this.
We had to watch it. I was so confused. He has a little crew inside of him who shoots cannons out, but they're little people inside of him, and they shoot little cannons and they turn huge.
But then the people could come out.
And the people could come out. What? But he doesn't feel that? He doesn't feel that?
He doesn't. Indigestion?
But what is his fruit's name?
Yeah, because he had horses coming out. He had the whole army coming out.
What would you call that? Compact? Like you compact it into your body? Compact fruit?
Maybe. Close, maybe.
Am I
close?
close?
I don't know.
Do you know what it's called?
I know. I know what it's called.
Am I right? But I'm trying to think, like, what would make sense. Like, you basically put it all, like, into a little box, except that little box is your whole body. And his eyeball, too. It can go anywhere. I don't know. But he's something else.
I don't know.
He's interesting. Yeah. That might be my favorite fruit.
I don't really. That's a wild card right there. You're like, actually, now that I think about it,
so
that might be the coolest one.
Could you imagine just like opening a piece of your body, be like, "Oh, hi, friend. You'll never be alone."
You'll never be alone.
Anyway, we have Rogue. 108 million.
You don't have much to say about him.
He's from the Sky Island. He has the wings. I don't remember exactly what he did.
He got beat up really quick.
Yeah, he did. Mad Monk is his nickname, right?
Yeah. He got brolic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he like... But... Yeah, he disappeared pretty quick. I just remember thinking it was cool that he's from Sky Island. Then we have Ex Drake.
El Drake. Drake. Drake!
222 million. He's an ex-Marine. And he can turn into a dinosaur. That's pretty cool. Turn into a little dinosaur.
Excited about that.
He has a rare ancient Zoron type devil fruit.
Zoan.
Did I say Zoron? One of my students' name is Zoran. What? Zoan fruit. And yeah, he can turn into a little dinosaur. Not little, big. A Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Little dinosaur.
And he's from the North Blue also.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's Supernova. Yeah. They're all pretty cool. I'm excited to see more of them.
So besides our crew, who's your favorite? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, Law, I like his personality the most. I still don't know about his power. I'm a little confused by it. I need to know the names of them. Little Mafia guy, at first I thought he was annoying, but he's kind of funny.
he's kind of
But
funny.
I like what's her name, who couldn't turn into a kid?
Jewelry, Bonnie.
Yeah. Law's cool. I don't know if that's favorite. Yeah. Once I find out more.
Is Urog probably your least favorite? Or the one you just don't care about, I guess?
He's from Sky Island. I just, he didn't stand out to me that much. So.
Yeah. There's a couple that could be forgettable, I guess, right now. Because, Kelly, you didn't get to learn much about.
Yeah.
Rogue, you didn't get to learn much about. So it's still up in the air. You know? Just, this is one of those things where, you know for sure that you're going to see these characters again. Because at first you could almost think they could be fodder. But they end up being important.
Cool. Excited.
So.
Yes.
We get introduced to all these guys, all these supernovas, but then an incident of sorts occurs, and Cammie gets kidnapped.
Yeah, Cammie gets kidnapped, and this is where you start seeing the
nastiness.
The nastiness and the demonic side of this island. Cammie gets kidnapped, and we learn that there's auctions, people auctions or fisherman auctions, and then they
just call them slave auction house.
Yeah, they truly enslave people, and you learn about the treatment of fishermen and mermaids. They're really, really, really looked down upon, and they're not welcomed on the island, which is why we learn that why Cammie and Hatchi went undercover. They completely hid that they were a fisherman and a mermaid.
What do you think about that? The kind of, and this is a random question I just thought of, but what do you think about the contrast of where Hatchi is now as a character versus when we first get introduced to him and the other fishmen? Because you could almost, I guess, feel like you hate fishmen based on that first arc. So how do you feel about coming into a lot of this dialogue in this arc, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like Hatchi until he didn't fully grow on me until we get into when we start to free Cammie, when he gets hurt and does the big apology. But I didn't fully like him. I didn't trust him until towards the end of the arc. But he did a big turnaround. And yeah, that's a good point. In Arlong Park, you learn to kind of hate fishmen because they seemed like really mean people.
Yeah.
But they are not all mean. It was just these pirates. They were pirates. And then also you kind of learn all right, well, if this is how some of the world views them, it makes sense why you're kind of a dickhead. I would be a dickhead too if I was treated like this on a certain island. So, yeah. You start to really feel for him a lot in this arc.
So, getting into the slave auction house a little bit more, what are your thoughts on this whole kind of part of the story we get into? Because it has some layers to it and also kind of some connections to the outside world.
Yeah. There were so many layers, and just the fact that the government is okay with this, just kind of speaks volumes. Well, we don't fully know if the individual people in the government are okay with it, but they all just kind of, when they hear it, they're like, oh, anyway. They pretend they didn't hear that it just happened. But I do, it's gross. But regardless of if Cammie was kidnapped or not, I will say I feel like if Luffy stumbled upon this and knew about this slave auction, he would have stopped it, regardless of how many warnings that Hatchi gave him. Like, I feel like he would have stopped it. And also, Nami would have stopped it, because the way Nami was just like she stood up for what she believed in. She was like, okay, well, if we can't just save Cammie by beating people up, we're gonna buy her back, and we're gonna like do what's right for our friend.
Yeah.
And
You never see Nami just be like, I'm just gonna spend the money on somebody else.
yeah, this was very selfless of her, because she is very greedy. Very greedy girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say about the slave auction, because it was just gross.
Yeah.
But the tying into, I do love that. So they show so in the slave auction, there was a giant who was originally the most desirable, but then the mermaid became the most desirable, Cammie. There were some other pirates and some women, and then there was this old guy that did some type of something in the beginning. He used his
At the time, we don't know what it is. It's hockey.
Hockey, yeah. I was about to say hockey.
Yeah.
A part of me wanted to say... So, to remember certain terms, I have to think of silly things. So, for hockey, for some reason, I think of, like, hawking a loogie, even though I can just... I know, gross. When I can just think of the sport, I don't know. But then for rokushiki, which is the martial arts, these are just terms that I want to always try to remember. Rokushiki, I think of the TV, because we have a Roku TV. So I almost said rokushiki, because it was like one of those weird things that I had to remember. Yeah. Anyway, hockey. I kind of knew he did hockey, though. You could tell.
Yeah.
Because, Ace. Wow. Shanks also has it.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the auction, there's also this old guy. We're not sure who he is yet.
Yeah.
We kind of start putting pieces together. Like, I think that's him.
Yeah.
But we don't know who he is or his background. Yes. So... With the slave auction, do you want to get into the parts of it?
Yeah, we can get to the moments, Hachi getting shot and everything.
Yeah. So the way people showed up was when they found out Cammie was kidnapped, they all were rushing to go find her. And then this is when Sanji calls the flying fishman. This is when he calls Duval and is like, oh, yeah. This is how Duval plays a really important role, because without the flying fishermen, they would not have gotten to Island 1 in time. Yeah. But they were searching. I forgot exactly how, but they found out that Cammie was at Island 1, and that's where the slave auction was happening.
Yeah.
So, the Celestial Dragons were there, and the Straw Hats all showed up at different times. First, it was Sanji, Nami, and... someone. Frankie?
Usopp? No. Frankie? Yeah.
I think Frankie.
Chopper.
Yeah, Frankie and Chopper.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the Straw Hats came. Well, Sanji just like stormed. Not Sanji, sorry. Luffy.
Luffy, yeah.
Stormed in with Zoro and like crashed in by kind of an accident. And Luffy's mind was only set on saving Cammie. He didn't
completely unaware of his surroundings.
He did not care about who was there. He just went in, was gonna go save her, and then this was right when the Celestial Dragon bought her, because although Nami was gonna buy her with all the treasure, the one Celestial Dragon, the grossest one, the one that Zoro encountered, who was riding a human, he outbid basically, and so they were defeated, but then Luffy storms in and finally he was punched. But before he was punched, Hachi gets shot. He shoots at Hachi. Well, he was trying to shoot at Luffy, and then I think it was missed. No. He was aiming for Hachi, because the audience, this is when Hachi exposed himself to being a fishman, and the audience was like, ew, gross, ew. And then the Celestial Dragon shot him, and yeah.
You thought he was going to be out of here.
I thought he was truly going to be unalived. I thought. But we know Oda doesn't do that. Oda doesn't do that. But I thought he was going to be truly unalived. It was very sad. But this is when it was a tearjerker, because he was just like, I'm doing this because I really want Nami's forgiveness. Like, I'm doing this for Nami. Like, everything I did to her in the past was effed up. And this is, I think, as an audience, this is when we felt it. and like really truly forgave him.
You're like, oh, my man's really, he really feel bad
It
about
was
that
sad,
shit.
and that's when Luffy finally snuffed a celestial dragon.
They punch her around the world.
I literally was like, finally, finally, and that's when all hell broke loose. But then, the best part of this was all the Straw Hats. Like, they know you're not supposed to do this, because Hachi warned. But all the Straw Hats were like, well, oh well. And Ben Zoro's reaction was like, I should have done it. Like, I wish it was me.
They're all like, it is what it is at this point.
And then, so they all got their captains back, though.
There's also, like, another connection with the slave auction house, though, too. Somebody was the owner of it.
Yeah, Doflamingo is back. We were only really introduced to him once.
Yeah.
And so I still want to, because his power is scary.
Yeah.
He can control people's bodies, right? That's Doflamingo.
Yeah.
Seemingly control people's bodies. We saw him back on, it was a while
Jaya.
ago. Yeah, on Jaya, and he scared me then. And he still scares me even after seeing all these other powers like Kuma's and everyone's.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doflamingo owned the auction. But then something else happened that he was a little bit distracted, and he was like, it's all yours, to the auction leader dude.
Yeah, he said the world is all about smiles now.
Yeah, what does that mean? I don't know.
What is smiles? Who knows? What does he mean by smiles?
Yes.
Luffy smiles.
I wonder what he's scheming up.
Yeah. So, Luffy punches Celestial Dragon, but that is not the end of the auction house drama, because, you know, they have these cuffs, these collars that they put on the slaves and people that's in the auction house that you can't just take off. They blow up. Mm-hmm. And then here comes the guy, the man, the myth, the legend himself, who enters the picture, Rayleigh. So we finally find the guy we were looking for. He comes out of he's the one that did Haki to not save, but kind of help out Cammie in one moment. And he comes out with a giant because he freed him. And first you're kind of curious, okay, how did he get out of the collar? And then he was going to go help Cammie out of the collar, and everyone's like, no! Like, don't do that, because they don't know who he is. And then at the same time, Frankie's going to go look for the keys, but Frankie ends up being too late. Rayleigh gets her out of the collar, and then Rayleigh, we found out who he is. And he was like, I've heard so much about you, Luffy. Like, he knows who Luffy is. And we just find out about this beautiful character who ends up being so sweet and so cool. Basically, he's Goldie Roger's right-hand man. There's so many connections to him, but whether it be Shanks, Garp, we find out, like, so many cool connections, and he ends up being really powerful, and he has some type of experience or power or haki that I think Luffy is going to end up also getting, because it's not a fruit, it's not a devil fruit, it's something that's learned, and I think it's through experience. I love him. He's really cool. I mean, there's a slew of things that comes with this Rayleigh introduction, honestly.
So many things.
Like, this is a downside. You might as well just go through the whole list that you got right there after Rayleigh. There's so much stuff.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we have to get Hachi back to safety. All of them back to safety, because... oh my gosh, there's so much that happens in this arc. We also, just before we get into, like, going to save Hachi, but the 3 supernovas are fighting the military to get Hachi back. So that was pretty cool, seeing Law, Luffy, and Kid. They all try to fight the military, and then they go to save Hachi.
Yeah.
So, in the bar, we're back with Shakky. Shakky. So many E's. Back with Shakky and Rayleigh, and we find out that Rayleigh knows what the One Piece is. Rayleigh knows the answer that Robin has been looking for, which is like what happened during the Void Century. And he knows it all. And he's like, I could tell you, but, you know, then you can't find out for yourself. And then to Robin's like, I will find out for myself. And then Usopp was like, I want to know. And then Luffy was like, no, because then it won't be fun.
I think this is a powerful moment for Robin too, because Robin was just like, I'm gonna keep on traveling with my guys. I think that's what also meant she wanted to do it with them, with the Straw Hats. She could have just.
But something else that was interesting is Rayleigh was like, your answer might be different than mine, so it's important that you find out on your own too. So that was pretty cool. We also.
Would you have been mad if we found out what the One Piece was right now at that moment? Because of him?
How does like, oh, so then what are these next 700
so what's
episodes
the point of the
for?
Yeah.
500.
She's like, I'm about to just stop right here.
We also, oh my goodness, again, history building, character, everything. We find out that Goldie Roger didn't get captured. He turned himself in because, well, number one, he already got everything he ever wanted and needed in life. He was the king of the pirates, but he also got sick. So here's another cool connection, some building that Oda did, is Crocus. He was Goldie Roger's doctor, and he is also the lighthouse guy that's been watching the moon.
And then Brooke is crying because it's just like so much stuff.
There's so many things. And then, yeah, so Crocus was on their ship to find Brooke to bring back to Lagoon. Didn't they say that?
Yes, he wanted to use it as an opportunity to try to find Brooke, but Roger just needed him anyway there because like Roger was sick.
So many connections. Yeah, so he was sick and he surrendered himself, which is that scene that we keep seeing of right before he dies. Like that was him actually just surrendering.
Yeah.
Not that he was caught, because he probably could have effed things up right there. Pretty cool.
Yeah. So, from there, we get into the Luffy, Law, and Kid team up. We already got into their powers, but what do you think about the dynamic?
So the team up. Yeah, so that happened right before we found out all these things, but it was still pretty cool. It was funny because as they were walking out, they were bickering. Like, no, I'm going to do it by myself. No, I could do this by myself. And then they all kind of do it together, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it.
So, all the chaos is happening. We punch the Celestial Dragon, which means that some admirals need to show up. So, Kizaru enters the battle. What are your thoughts on Kizaru and his powers?
Okay, well, I have a few thoughts about that whole situation. He's a little scary. He has... At first, it didn't say what his fruit was. I thought it was like a beam fruit or something. He basically shoots light out. So my first thought was scary, but also I was interested to think about like light versus darkness, and like I was trying to do a matchup
against him and Blackbeard.
Yeah, like light versus darkness to see how that would turn out. Because Ace kind of wanted it against him, but it was like fire versus dark. But anyway, because I think fire versus ice would make more sense without QG, and then light versus dark. But he was scary because he didn't only have like that power. He just had a lot of experience, and you could tell too, like he knew what he was doing. But he was also so just like nonchalant about the world. He's like, oh, interesting. Like he just seemed very undefeatable.
Yeah.
Because even when he was split in half, he just put himself back together.
Very chill person.
So,
he's like, ugh.
It's like, whoa, this sucks.
Oh, you attacked me like that?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, it's called the glint fruit is what he has.
The Pika no Mi.
Pikachu.
So, Kizaru shows up. He's basically murking.
Yeah, all of the supernovas.
Murking.
This is when we get to see all the supernovas' powers, but yeah, he's...
Plus, like, you kind of have an idea of the Admiral's powers by watching Luffy go against Aokiji. But to think that there's, like, all these people that's kind of on the same level as Luffy just getting handled by one dude.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane.
Yeah, the Admiral's powers are... Because, like, Aokiji is...
Because you probably thought they was chumps this whole time.
Yeah.
Really. Because
the Marines are.
The rest of the fodder Marines.
Yeah.
Besides CP9, because CP9 is part of the world government as well.
Yeah.
So there's that concepts there. But Kizaru shows up, but then along Kizaru, the Pacifistas show up.
So my first thought of this was it was really interesting that the Pacifistas, well, first they all look like Kuma, which was interesting, but then you could tell it wasn't Kuma because they were too robotic, and also it clicked more towards the end for me. They didn't have Bibles. Kuma always had a Bible. But what was interesting was their power was the same as Kizaru's. Kizaru. Yeah. Switch the vowels. They all could shoot beams. Yeah. So I don't know if that's supposed to, like, that's on purpose or if it's just a coincidence, but it was interesting that they all could shoot the beams, and were they created to be with Kizaru? To all have the same glint type situation? I don't know, that was interesting. But, yeah, they were intense. When they were going against the Straw Hats, it got pretty devastating. Yeah. Well, because they all basically went through the supernovas like it was nothing. But then when they got to the Straw Hats, it was pretty devastating because this is when they really started to become a bit weak. Like Zoro was getting it handed to him. he couldn't even stand up, basically. So it started getting really sad at this part, because you literally watch them starting to crumble. They finally defeated them, so they thought.
Well, what do you think about the concept of all these pacifistas, though? Like, do you think it's a crazy idea in itself?
Yeah, because, I mean, it's obviously something that Dr. Vegapunk must have been involved in.
Who you still don't know.
Still don't know who he is, but he must be involved in it somehow. But yeah, it's a crazy concept, and it's also not fair. it's cheating.
It's not fair.
It's cheating. Like, how are you yeah.
It's interesting because, like, as Drake was fighting one of the pacifistas, he's like, he knows about them a little bit because he was in the Marines.
Yeah.
And he's like surprised. He's like, oh, so you drip red blood. Interesting. Like, it's a shock to think that, like what exactly are these things?
Yeah, and how do they...
Like, why are they dripping red blood? It could have been any other type of blood, but it's red. It's just like, and they're robots. Why?
Yeah.
So, from here, another character, another person that's along with Kizaru and the Pacifistas show up, and that's Sentomaru.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I keep forgetting his name.
He calls Kizaru like his uncle.
Yeah, it's his uncle. I don't know if it's actually his uncle, but he calls him his uncle. So they're somehow related. They know each other. I don't know. I mean, if it's his uncle, is he from the military?
He works for the military because it said that he was part of this special, like, science combat division unit. That when he got a title card too. It was just a lot going on.
So something with science too. Yeah, my first instinct was, what type of martial arts did he study? Because it was not Rokushiki, and if it was like different level. But we really got to see it in action when he was going against Luffy, because Luffy was like, what is happening? And he was able to actually punch Luffy. Yeah. I'm interested to see Luffy grow stronger from this, because we know when he observed Rokushiki just once, he was able to pick up on it and then defeat CP9. What are their names? So I'm interested to see how this is going to make Luffy stronger. But yeah, he whatever this martial arts is, I'm curious to find out what it is.
Yeah. I mean, what's also interesting with, like, the pacifist and the Straw Hat situation is that this is the first time you watch Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy work together to attack one person.
Yeah.
And to think that the person that they got right back up, you knew that you were in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
But all these extra pacifistas basically start running up on the gang, so it's looking bad for us.
Yeah, really bad.
It's not looking good. What were your thoughts actually around this part? Like, how do you think the arc was gonna, like, finish? Because I kept telling you that we only had like 3 or 4 episodes left, and I feel like you were just trying to get a gauge of, like, where is this gonna go?
I don't know. I thought I knew someone was going to come in and help. I actually did. There was a part of me that was like, the real Kuma is going to come, because the way it ended with Kuma in Thriller Bark, I felt like he was somehow a good guy. Not necessarily good because of what he did to Zoro, but just something in him knew what justice was, and he just wanted something for the new era. Like, So I did think he was gonna show up, or Garp, or I thought someone was gonna come and help him.
Somebody.
Zoro was too weak. Luffy was tired. Like, I knew they weren't gonna make it through. I just didn't know exactly who was gonna come.
Yeah, because after Kizaru gets done washing up the other supernovas, decides to pull up on the Straw Hats.
Yeah.
And it's about to be over for your boy, Zoro, until we do get saved.
Yeah, I was so happy that it was a really great just entrance. Rayleigh comes through.
Yeah. Clean entrance. One of the cleanest.
Yeah.
It was not an edit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he jumps right in, and it's interesting to watch him fight Kizaru because it's curious, like, how come he is able to swing a sword on him when none of them could even touch him.
Yeah. It's a Logia.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So for me, what my thought was, you know how Luffy and Zoro, all of them really, they, through experience and through battling these people or just observing really powerful people, they're able to learn from it and pick up a defense or an offense just based on what they're observing and what they're fighting. So I think because the Dark King has all of this experience from the past with Goldie Roger, and he's gone through this all, he has all of this knowledge and all of this power just built inside of him because he's had the experience. So I'm excited to see the Straw Hats get to that.
Yeah. So even though Rayleigh does come and save us, it's still not enough to completely get us in the clear. But as you thought somebody else was gonna come, the real Kuma does show up, and this is basically kind of where the arc basically reaches this. It's silly to call it a climax because the whole thing felt like a climax, and even though this arc was 20 episodes, it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Kuma shows up, but there's I wasn't afraid of him. Although he wiped them out, there was something. It was devastating, completely devastating because Luffy's, worst nightmare came true. But I wasn't afraid because there were these little subs that kept on happening. When Rayleigh was fighting... Kizaru, thank you. He made a little comment oh, that should be me saving them, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I also... Kuma made a deal with Zoro. I'm giving, he wasn't going to come back. He wasn't supposed to come back and defeat them. He made a deal with Zoro. You're taking all of Luffy's pain and
fatigue and everything, yeah.
So, because of that, I don't know, there's something I trusted about him, but then he started, wiping them out. Instantly, just whap.
What were your moments? What was your thoughts as this was happening? Because if my observation, I couldn't really tell what was processing in your brain while we were watching it. I couldn't tell if you were unfazed or you were just it's all gonna be fine. I couldn't really tell where your head was at while that was happening.
I think I was trying.
I almost cried my first time watching it, even though I knew there was another 500 episodes for me to watch.
No, I didn't almost cry until Luffy was sobbing at the very end when Zoro was taken out. Well, no, Nico Robin was the last one taken out.
Good point, that shirt.
When he started doing it, I was just trying to process everything because first I was where the hell are they going? So I was trying to process it, and then I started getting more and more a little frazzled by it when Zoro went, and I was damn. This is getting real. Luffy's where did Zoro go? Because that's his man. But I didn't feel afraid for them. I feel like he sent them somewhere where they need to be in this moment. Maybe. I could be wrong. They could have gone somewhere that's awful, but I feel like they're going somewhere where they should go. Yeah. Where they should be.
I mean, what was your thoughts during that Luffy moment? I feel like throughout the whole series this is the first true breakdown that you experienced. So how did that feel, kind of seeing this version of Luffy?
It was this was devastating. So the way he was, I would just think of my students when he was literally hitting his head on the ground because he couldn't contain and just he couldn't deal with this like devastation he was feeling. Like he was about to put his hands up. His nightmare came true. His worst nightmare came true. He lost his crew. They literally all disappeared before his eyes. And
and they don't know in story. It's different for us because like we're watching it, so we understand his powers is that he sends people away, but they don't know that.
Yeah,
they have no idea what his powers are. That he just sends people wherever he sends them, and they don't even know that Luffy didn't even know the deal with Zoro and Kuma. So for all he knows, they dead.
Yeah, he's just wiping them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was devastating. That's the only way I could describe it.
I mean, what do you think they are?
This is what I was trying to like wrap my brain around. I truly don't know. Like, they could be anywhere from as simple as they're back on their ship, you know? I know it's not that easy because they still have to, like, grab the ship. Maybe they were sent to wherever Ace is. Well, I don't think Oda would speed up the story that quick because I think we're, like, waiting to get to Ace. Maybe they're back with Shakky. I don't know. I really don't know.
The arc ended there, though. That was it.
And then I finally get to watch what happens.
The announcer guy was like, and it was on this day that the Straw Hat Pirates were completely annihilated.
Yeah.
So, the Sabaody Archipelago. Oh, what you gonna say?
What was interesting? Sorry, one last thing. Kuma was like to someone, "You'll never see me again."
Yeah, he said we'll never meet again to Luffy.
We'll never meet again, so I think that means Kuma is going bye-bye.
Oh, you think this is it for him?
Mm-hmm. Because he if he's saving them, I think he's gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe. I don't know.
We'll see. So,
sorry.
We're at the end. This is it. So it's time to give your final thoughts, your ranking. What do you rank Sabaody Archipelago out of 10?
It was such a ride, man. It was so short, but such a ride. I gotta give it a solid...
What?
It's hard because like the culture of it was nasty.
It was nasty.
But the history, like the history itself, just deserves a 10. I'm not gonna give this arc a 10 because it was also devastating. The highs were so high, the lows were so low, and for that, I'll give it a 9.
9 out of 10.
9, yeah.
That's fair. Excited. What do you think we go next? Next arc?
Mermaids.
Mermaids?
Maybe. Well, actually, no. We need to find out where the hell they are. We might not get to the mermaids anytime soon. Are we ever gonna get to the mermaids? Maybe he sent them far away from them. I don't know. I'm excited to just find out where they are.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So that is it for the review of Sabaody Archipelago.
Sabaody.
Struggling with that one. Sabaody. Sabaody. Whatever. It is what it is. So, we'll end the video here. But before we end this video, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, as well as hit the notification button to get notified for more content that I put out. As well, if you're not enjoying this video, be sure to hit us with a like and leave a comment. And let us know your thoughts on the Sabaody Archipelago Arc of One Piece. So, on that note, y'all.
Enjoy your life.
I'm feeling great and feel the vibe. I'm really grateful we alive. And I'm feeling great cause lately I've been on the way to something great. And I feel alive cause I create like every day and I'm on today.